Welcome back to an all-new episode of the Babbles Nonsense podcast. I have a treat for you guys today. I have my oldest and dearest friend, Carol Stephen, who is the owner and operator of Raven's Art Boutique Memorial Jewelry. I cannot wait for her to tell y'all her story and her journey on how she created this wonderful company. And if you didn't know, it is a memorial jewelry, which I initially thought that just meant like funerals and things like that. But she talks about how she has done wedding flowers, anniversary flowers, and if you don't have flowers from these events, she has also done like t-shirts and cremations and pet hair, and one person even sent her some teeth. I'm absolutely not kidding. So without further ado, let's get started. All right, guys, we are back with another episode with my good friend Carol Ann. I have known you since basically I came out of my mom's vagina.
Yes.
So
we're from another, well, what they say, not sister from another mister, but something else. There's another little saying because we need to relate it to the moms because the moms are the best friends.
Yeah. So, I can't remember.
Sis from another miss, I think.
Yeah. But we have known each other because my dad worked for your dad. And so we played a lot together when we were children. And I wanted to have you on this podcast because I think you have a very interesting story about how you started your business. And we're going to get into all your things like your love for tattoos, how you became this art major and turned it into this flourishing company that you have, and just kind of go from there. So why don't you introduce yourself to the people listening to the podcast?
Yay. So hello, everyone. This is the first time I think I've ever been on a podcast. So this is super exciting. And I'm going to try my best not to say any cuss words and be
No. I cuss all the time.
Oh, okay.
It's a cuss as much as you want.
Well, hell yeah. Okay. So I was joking with my husband, like, man, I'm going to have to really talk slow and make sure I don't say.
The only person that doesn't like my cussing is Aunt Debbie. And she's like, Jonna, could you tone it down on the cussing? And I'm like, probably not. So
probably not. Okay. So that makes me feel better. Okay. I'm not that bad, but when I get super happy or super agitated, there's some words. So my name is Carol Ann Stevens. I have a bachelor's from UAH in Huntsville, and I am a studio art major, minor in art history. And I am a wife. I am a business owner to Raven's Art Boutique Memorial Jewelry, LLC, 7 years now in October. And I love animals. I'm a board of director at the Tullahoma Fine Arts Center and a watercolor teacher, professor as well there at the art center.
That's so awesome.
I'm all over the place. I don't know. I have so many irons in the fire. It's awful. I'm just all over the place. I don't know how I find time to do anything.
I don't either. Well, I mean, we had a hard time scheduling you for this podcast because I really wanted you to be in person, but we couldn't because my work schedule and your work schedule is just kind of so cantankerous. And, but anyway, Zoom works. And thank God for the pandemic, introducing Zoom for people who do podcasts, because otherwise it would never get done. So.
Oh yes. Cause I was thinking, oh my goodness, I got to be here, bounce there. And even after our little interview podcast, I have to go to like 2 different places. And I'm like, oh Jesus, like I'm going to have a heart attack one of these days.
You're just a busy woman. I don't know how you do it all.
I don't either. I'm just blown. I'm like, what the heck? I'm just going to croak one day, but knock on wood.
But you still get to do what you love. And we're going to get into that. But I kind of want to start with your background. And like I mentioned earlier, we've known each other for a really long time. And we used to play together at your dad's house and things like that. And then, something you told me when you were little. So you have had a love for scary movies and kind of the dark arts for a really long time. I, on the other hand, hate it. Like hate being scared.
And I just scared you to death when I was little.
Yeah, I said that we were going to get to this because I remember you always wanted to watch the freaking Chucky movies and the Leprechaun movies, scaring me to death. But let's just go ahead. Since you have the love for scary movies, tell everyone how you got your name.
Okay, so I love this. I tell people this all the time because like if someone meets me and they just, if they have a love for horror movies as well, when I say, oh yeah, my name is Carol Ann, and they're like, oh, don't go into the light, or go into the light, or they're here, or something like that, I chuckle because, they're making playful, fun accusations towards my name, but they really don't know my mother actually did name me from Poltergeist. So when I go into the story that, oh, well, actually, and then I'm like, you can even, my mom will even tell you, did Carolyn tell you how she got her name? But my mother was pregnant and, they didn't know if there was a boy or a girl yet. And she was sitting down and I guess at the time movies, it was already a year or two old. So it was actually on TV or she rented it or something like that. But I think it was just on TV. And she heard the mother calling around the house her name, Carol Ann, and she goes, well, that is just so pretty. So that stuck with her. So if it was a girl, it's going to be Carol Ann. And she jokes and makes a little bit of a chuckle that she feels like she cursed me naming me Carol Ann, because I love horror movies so much and spooky things. Come on now. I have a nightmare with E.T., but I don't have a nightmare with like Pumpkinhead or Chucky or something. It's horrible. Like
That's hilarious.
I know. Like I just kind of laugh but I wasn't scared of E.T., but and I loved it and I watched it all the time, but I had a nightmare generate from the damn movie instead of like Chucky or Pumpkinhead or something. So it's just weird. But I kind of laugh about that too. Like she did kind of curse me because I do love scary stuff.
And do you think that like led you into, because I don't want to say you're like gothic or emo or label you or anything, but through high school, like you did kind of go through, like your all black stage and, your rock music and things. Do you think it started from a very early age where you were into like just kind of scary stuff, dark stuff, Halloween stuff, and then it kind of led from there?
That is a great point. I honestly feel like that did. I really do. I never would have really thought of it. But okay, for example, there is this movie called Strangeland, and it has the lead singer of Twisted Sister in the movie, and a bunch of other cool songs throughout the movie from various artists. But just even the 80s and 70s movies that have different bands that play out throughout the movies, I'm like, ooh, I really like that song. I really like this. I really like that. Like, I was still in elementary when I started hearing Rob Zombie. So Rob Zombie was in a lot of horror movies, like you got Chucky, like for example. Yeah. And and another example, like the funny movies like Wayne's World. That's where I learned about Alice Cooper. So honestly, that blows my mind that you say that, because that really explains a lot about me. So well, yes, I did,
But when you think about it, like you have been true to who you are and your personality from day one, right? Like that's just been who you are, where some people in high school kind of just fill out phases of themselves. So they're like, I think I want to do goth today. I think I want to be emo today. But you actually like, this is who you are. And these are the things that you truly do love and like. And you're not just trying to put on a persona to fit the mold of whatever the error may be. Does that make sense?
Right. Oh yeah. Because even in high school, a high school boyfriend that I had, and not down in him because he is a good guy, we just did not mesh.
Yeah.
But he was more country than me. But I do like country music. I do like pop music. I do like rap. I do like R&B. I love everything. But I do focus more on the rock and metal side of the genres. But he was very more on the country side, and he knew that I did like rock music because he would listen to stuff like Three Doors Down or Stain or something like that with me. Some of the mainstream bands, which there's nothing wrong with that because I love them too. but he didn't really like that. I hate to say that I changed myself a little bit for him, but I tried to be a little bit more girly than not necessarily tomboy, but just
like what he liked.
grunge almost. Honestly, I think grunge. Like I love t-shirts and jeans, and that's what I still freaking wear all the time. And my husband jokes with me, you need to be more feminine. I'm like, I don't ever leave the house. Why?
Like, you married me, you're stuck with me now.
Right. You knew I was like grungy before we got together, but I guess he's kind of stuck on my modeling looks, but he still thinks I'm pretty. So,
well, I mean, I wasn't saying you weren't pretty by like liking grunge anymore. I was just saying, like, I think it's authentic when someone stays true to who they are versus trying to fit a mold of what somebody else wants. And I think that's always been very authentic about who you are as a person, because you may have tried to fit a mold with a boyfriend in high school. Who doesn't try to do that? But from the beginning, you have literally stuck to yourself, and like, that's who you were. And that, and when people say Carol Ann Love's, like, oh yeah, that's just who she is, instead of being like, she's just going through a phase, you know?
Right. Oh yeah. And I heard that a lot, but I kind of almost went through a hint of a phase of not being myself with that boy, because we were different, but we did get along and all this stuff. But we realized, okay, we're kind of different. We need to kind of go our separate ways. And then the next boyfriend, I did kind of lean more on the gothic scene, because, you know, he was gothic and I was grungy, and I kind of went that phase. But I really just, after because, you know, in high school, you're still, like you said, still trying to find yourself a little bit, but you kind of know who you are, but you're kind of seeing, am I more this? Am I more that? Or whatever. But yeah, I've totally kind of always been whatever you call me. You know what you call me.
I mean, I don't know what you, I mean, I don't feel like there is a mold when we get older. I'm just saying you kind of like more of the dark arts. Like, that's just who you are. But so I personally don't know this story, which is crazy, but I don't really remember when you got into art or when you started realizing, like, hey, like, I'm good at this. I remember we used to spray paint school buses in your dad's junkyard, but that's all I remember, like, as far as art goes. So when did it transition into, I like music, I like this? Because you started out, was it when you started getting tattoos? Like, because I know that you got a very large tattoo when you were in high school on your back. Was that for your dad?
No, that one was just a tramp stamp. An awful tramp stamp, but like you said, we go through a phase. It was popular at that time, right? So now I got like a big ass tramp stamp, and it's just horrible. But anyway, actually, no, I have drawn ever since elementary.
And see, I don't remember that. I don't know why I don't remember that.
But you know, it's so funny. I remember showing you how to draw a rose, though. Like, I showed you how to do a line, with you, and then a swirl on top. And
I still draw them like that, so I just don't remember where it came from.
Oh my God. So I showed you how to do that. So, but I've drawn, like, I mean, I have sketches from, I tried to label my sketches a lot when I was little, and I seriously have several sketches from elementary. I drew Aaliyah, the singer, when I was in like 5th grade, sitting in my room, listening to her music and just like looking at a picture from my calendar of her and tried to draw it. And it's decent for 5th grade. Like, but portraits are intimidating. If it's not an animal portrait, I'm not going to do it. Cause I mean, unless it's Edgar Allan Poe or someone like that, I'm not going to draw or paint someone's family, because it is extremely intimidating and hard, because you're going to notice something that I don't see maybe in the picture if it's not a good quality. Like, oh, well, where's that freckle that looks like a heart? Or, you know, something weird like that. Like, portraits are intimidating.
But art is intimidating in general. But the older I get and the more I learn about art, it's like, honestly, art is just like they say, in the eye of the beholder, right? Like, so you could draw something that's completely beautiful to someone, and I could look at it and go, yeah, I hate it, because of how it makes me feel, right? Like, if it makes you feel a certain way.
Right. And the same thing, like with the abstract artists, a lot of people are like, well, I don't get it. Well, you don't have to really get it. It's how you feel. How does the movement of this paint, how does the, colors coordinate to your
Mm-hmm.
feeling. Do you feel sad when you look at this? Do you feel angry or busy or anxiety ridden or happy? Like, like that's the same with any art.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you just said, I could hate it and love it. Like,
Yeah.
for example, the show that I had just entered this watercolor horse in, I was proud of my painting. I was like,
Oh, it
dang,
looks so good. It looks
thank
so good.
you so much. I was so proud of it. But there was this one other painting that I was like, oh dang, I love this one. This one's gonna win. Like
Mm-hmm.
I picked my favorite. And then not being conceited, but there are times when us artists actually like our pieces.
Yeah.
I'm proud of them.
Well, I mean, you should.
And like I was like, well, I think I might win something, but I bet this one, this other painting is gonna win. And it didn't. And it blew my mind. And I was still excited and grateful about my piece, but I kept thinking about this other piece. Like, I'm like, hey, I just feel like that one's better. But I had asked, someone, do you know who the judges were? What did they say? Like, why did they not pick this one? Because I felt like it was more detailed than mine to me.
Yeah.
But they said it was too dark and they couldn't transition the face, the snout of the horse from the chest and all this stuff. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, I can see that. Like,
Yeah.
it's just to each their own. But I'm very glad that over the years, and you've always appreciated art. I didn't know that you never really was into it.
Yeah. I like art. Like, I like what I like, but
Yeah.
I say that, but I don't even know what I like.
Yeah.
Because if I look at something and I'm like, oh, that's pretty, then I like it. But I also don't know artist names or anything like that.
But me actually, like I knew a couple of famous artists when I was little. I think the basics that a lot of people know when they're in grammar school and stuff, like
Yeah.
Van Gogh and Picasso and Monet. Monet was my favorite when I was little. But when I got older and started to learn more in different art classes, especially high school, that's when I found out about Salvador Dali. And that's who I have tattooed on my right arm, the sleeve. He is wild and wicked and cool. Like, I mean, I've just loved his art ever since I found out about him.
So when did you decide that you're like, you know what? This is what I love and this is what I'm going to make a career in? Like, when was that transition for you? Because I know when I was in high school, for the longest time, I thought I was going to be a teacher. I was like, I'm going to be a teacher, yada, yada, yada. But people talked me out of it because they were like, you're never going to make any money. You need to go into nursing. And so that's what I did. And lo and behold, 10 years later, not 100% sure that this is the career that I was meant for.
Mm-hmm.
So when did you decide, like, this is what I want to do and this is what I'm going to do?
Well, I know this sounds so awful, but the first boyfriend in high school, I really was just going to graduate high school and get married and be a housewife.
But that's what we were all thinking, right? Coming from a small town.
I think so, because that's what, even though we are still a different generation from back in the day, like in the 50s, 60s and things like that, where, the housewife thing was the American dream for women,
Yeah.
I mean, I got the cooking part down, right? But my poor husband, he thinks I'm a clutter mess. But, I was going to literally graduate and be a housewife. I didn't think about school until I met my high school art teacher in 11th grade. And she opened up my eyes and she made me feel really good in art class. And she said, you have a talent. And she kind of took me under her wing and she let me come to contest events. I got to go to Alabama A&M. Mm-hmm. That's where I started my college career. But I was very influenced and I wanted to go to college, but I wanted to go to college for graphic design mm-hmm. and a minor in studio art. But when I went to A&M, we did have issues in keeping a graphic design teacher.
Gotcha.
So it really put me behind on my schedule for graduation in that major. I mean, I was in my third year of college and didn't have my first graphic design class.
Oh, wow. I did not know that.
Yes. So I was very anxiety ridden, and I'm like, I got to go to UAH. I got to transfer. I got to go somewhere that
Mhm.
to be in this major. Well, then I decided, okay, you know what? I'm not going to be able to graduate in a timely manner if I stick to graphic design as my major. So I changed it to studio art as my major, art history as my minor, because that's what I had the most of to be able to
Okay.
graduate in 5 years.
Yeah.
So I hate to say I kind of just went on a limb and do what was best for my money.
Yeah.
But I mean, I paid monthly payments for my tuition.
Yeah.
I graduated college debt free.
That's awesome.
And it was so hard. Like, I mean, it was hard. I worked 30 hours on the weekend so I could pay for school, you know. And
Yeah.
if I did lack in anything, of course, my mom and stepdad, my aunt and uncle, and my dad at the time when he was alive, they did help me. If
Yeah.
I needed gas money, needed food, or, you know, I was $100 short of my monthly payment for tuition, like they helped if I needed it.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, the only option I have with this degree is to teach community college and college students. And there are hardly any jobs around unless you move out of state, all of this. And I had financially wore myself out because I
Yeah.
paid for tuition. And I was like, damn, I am so tired.
Well, I mean, yeah.
I cannot pay for my master's like I did my bachelor's because I wore myself out and I was burnt out. I mean,
Yeah.
to be honest, I was burnt out. And I can't say my degree was wasted, but it was in a way.
Mhm.
But I seriously don't think not down in myself by any means. I don't think I'm good at anything else besides art or anything creating with my hands. And dang, I sure in hell can't be a carpenter. I'm going to wear my ass out and hurt my back.
You're so silly. So
And
so you graduated with studio art
yes,
and you wanted to do graphic design
yes.
and you're not using either of those currently.
Well, actually, you can use my studio art with my career because it's art related. I'm creating things. I'm doing jewelry because I did do jewelry class and stuff at A&M and in college. Like I learned things, and I'm teaching watercolor classes that I do get paid for at the art center.
Okay.
So I am using it, but it's not to its full extent, like actually teaching
Gotcha.
community college level or
So
college.
did you decide on graphic design initially? Because obviously graphic design is where the money is right now because there's all kinds of content creators, right? Like Instagram is blown up. Like there's a lot of people that have an individual business for let's just take, for example, my nutrition business or whatever. If I wanted to hire that out to a graphic designer, then they get the money for like obviously making my templates and all this stuff so that I don't have to do it. Is that what you're going for? Like that kind of graphic design or more for like a marketing business type situation?
Honestly, anything.
Yeah.
I didn't focus in one realm. I wanted to learn it all. And I love the fact of like, for example, like let's say, unless it's let me explain hatch print. Like one thing I thought about, because you know, as you notice, me and my husband go to concerts like crazy, except for the COVID. We haven't been able to. But when we go to all these different rock concerts, you hear these things called a hatch print. And it is literally like an actual print that they press out and roll out, and they do the different layers of the ink. Like it's hard. If you mess up a poster, you mess up a poster. Like it's tough. But I mean, I would love to even do things like that and, you know, create things for like bands. I always thought creating bands and their CD cases or the labels to their CDs, like, you know, things like that. Like I always thought that was cool. You know, just any kind of graphics for t-shirts. And I always thought that stuff was really neat and I wanted to do that. And also, when I was younger, it was kind of embedded in my brain, this is where you're going to make your money. Like you said, someone told you don't teach.
Yeah.
You're not making money. Well, I was thinking teaching, and like she was in high school and middle school and things like that. And she even kind of pressed that she thinks I would do well with graphic design and I would make more
Okay.
money. So even a teacher telling me you're going to make more money,
Yeah.
I was like, I want to make money,
Yeah.
So
I mean, well, we
but,
were both from a small town, so we all had adult influences on us telling us like, hey, if you want to get out of this town and you want to make money, these are the things that you have to do. So we were kind of influenced more on the social structure of where we grew up kind
yeah.
of versus what we just saw and wanted to do because we didn't see a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
So you developed, and we probably have to give a backstory before, because you developed Raven's Art Boutique.
Yes.
And you said you developed that 7 years ago.
Yes.
So you developed a character, Raven,
Uh-huh.
first. That came first, correct?
Yes.
So we kind of have to give a little backstory about how you created this Raven character before we can get into the art boutique that you developed. So when did the character for you, Raven, come into play?
Okay. Well, this was actually a really dark time for me because I had the lowest self-esteem. I, was trying to build myself up and I had just had my tattoo, my lower back, but later on, like a year and a half later, I started on my back piece,
Mm-hmm.
the actual raven wings that are on my back. Well, I wasn't thinking anything about tattoo modeling or anything like that. Well, but I had started talking to this one guy, and he took me to his tattoo artist. That's still a local tattoo artist in town. But but he was like, "Oh my gosh, your tattoo is beautiful." And he had all these tattoo magazines laying around. And I saw on the back of these magazines that there was want to be featured, want to be a model or whatever. And there's a little cutout and you can go on the website and all this stuff. And I'm like, well, that's cool. And I start, getting these magazines and looking at them. And I also saw that there was a tattoo contest, like a tattoo girl calendar contest in Nashville. And I'm like, oh my God, this is so close. And, at the time, I'm definitely not as tattooed as all these other girls. So I definitely didn't make it in the calendar, but that is okay because it was so fun. And I met so many sweet girls that I'm still friends with till today.
All right, guys, I had to interrupt this podcast. We're halfway there, but to tell y'all about this delicious rosé from Cote De Femme. Y'all all know from previous podcasts that I'm kind of a Prosecco girl, but once I interviewed Kristen and Andy Bernard and tasted their rosé, I may be making a switch soon because it is so crisp and so delicious. It's hard to even explain the flavor notes to y'all. You just have to try it yourself. And if you're not local to Huntsville, Alabama, don't worry. They have a website that you can go to and get it shipped as long as it's legal to ship wine to your state. So go to Cote De Femme, which is COTESDEFEMME.com. Type in your state and see if they deliver to your area. And don't forget the promo code Bring Me Wine so that you don't have to pay for shipping. Again, go to CoteDeFemme.com and use the promo code Bring Me Wine.
But so of course I don't talk to that guy no more. But just the things that I learned being around him and his friend that had this tattoo shop, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do something for me because I am such a lover. I always put things off and thought about the dude. I never thought about myself much. And I'm like, I'm gonna do something. I'm just gonna see if it'll happen. And I started promoting myself in this contest, and I had to think of a name. And there was the photographer who planned this calendar. He reached out to me and a few other women who just had their names, like
Okay.
Carol Ann, like I was going to just turn myself in as Carol Ann, and I did. And my name was Carol Ann at that first contest. But when I decided I wanted to do better and keep trying to pursue it to have fun, because I was having a blast. Like I was having so much fun with these women, and they were very empowering. And he was like, you and you, I think y'all should make up a name for your modeling. And at this time, I'm sure it's still up. It's called Model Mayhem. And you make an account and you can talk and reach out to other photographers and models, and you can create your name through there, and no one can like steal that name.
Okay, that's cool.
But I have came across other Raven Lees on there, so I don't think it's like that no more, because after I made my name, I started seeing others on there a long time ago. Crap, I don't even know my login to that anymore. But it's like MySpace. What the hell is my email and login? But I had things like, oh my gosh, Gypsy Lace, and just all this crazy stripper sounding names. And I was just thinking one day, and of course, I love Edgar Allan Poe.
Yeah, I was about to ask you if that's where it came from.
Yes, and I loved him since elementary. And I started thinking, oh my gosh, Raven Lee. So I'm taking snips from 2 separate poems / short stories that are my favorite. The Raven. So I took Raven from The Raven, and Annabelle Lee is my favorite little poem. Do you remember that one?
Yes, I remember those because they were creepy as hell, and I hated when they made us read them. Like that one where the Raven was the one where the person was under the house, right?
No, you're thinking Telltale Heart.
Okay, yeah, no.
With the eye and the heartbeat and the sport. Yeah.
The fact that they made us read that shit in school pisses me off. Anyways, continue your story.
Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness.
I told you I get scared easily. I can't even watch commercials about scary movies. I have to plug my ears and go so I don't listen to.
Oh my gosh. I'm definitely not like that. I was a daggone 2-year-old in diapers sitting cross-legged watching Nightmare on Elm Street. Like, oh, I want a glove.
Nope.
A little creepy.
Nope.
So I was like, okay, Raven Lee from The Raven and Annabelle Lee.
And then a star was born.
Do what?
I said, and then a star was born.
Now that you said that, it was so cute. You see those Facebook things that are like, ask your spouse these questions.
Yeah.
What you're doing. I did that like 2 or 3 years after we were dating or something. And one of the questions on there was, if your spouse was famous, what would they be famous for? And he said modeling. I was like, oh, that's so sweet. That was sweet.
But you did that for how long? Like, how long were you doing the modeling?
Hardcore, definitely like 3 years.
Yeah. And was that profitable? Did you make a lot of money doing that?
No, and that's what kills me. No, it's like any business. You need to put in before you start gaining. Now, I did have several commissioned, photo shoots, but, a lot of them I did fund my own. I did my own makeup and hair, or I did a wig, or I bought the clothing. Yeah. They may have had the props and the property and all this stuff, but I did put a lot of money into it. But I had been in a lot of magazines and several that had been on the shelf that you could just get at, your local Books and Noble and stuff. But it was more money than receiving for sure. Gotcha. But like with anything that you start, you have to put in.
Yeah.
before you start receiving. But then, and I'm definitely not blaming my husband by any means. But like I said, this modeling, I was trying to do it to help myself feel better.
Yeah.
Help my confidence, make me feel worthy and special. Because I mean, just to be all honest, I had the fucking hardest time with dudes. Okay. Like, I'm like, oh, okay, you're damaged. Oh, let me hug you and help you and just cheer myself up.
Girl, you ain't alone. You ain't alone.
Like, I was so freaking tired of that. And it's so funny. I did have confidence, but I didn't have confidence. And my husband really helped me with that because he helped me trust people again.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I have never been in a relationship to where it is like straight up teamwork. Yeah. Like and if there is any lagging or anything, we can talk.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, we've never cussed at each other. Like, I've never actually cussed at any ex-boyfriend except for one because he was drunk and retarded. But, but, you know, there is just a lot of people that don't know how to love someone. Yeah. And I am a lover. I have always been a lover.
To a fault, you are. Yeah.
Yes. And it's bad. Like, even sometimes my husband's like, Jesus
it's Christ, not bad.
Yeah.
So what I've learned, I know this is completely off topic and we'll get back on topic in a minute, guys, but like what I've learned is that we have to be very accepting of ourselves because I'm not a lover at all. I used to be, but I have this wall up that's like, I don't let people close to me. And it used to bother me that I was so pessimistic or so one way or the other. And I don't like dating because it's awkward. I have social anxiety and people want to push that on me. And then I've finally gotten to the point where it's like, you know what? I don't understand why my dating life or how I am bothers you.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to do me over here because this is what makes me feel good. And when I decide that I want to work on breaking down those walls, I will do that because I want to do that, not because someone told me to.
Yeah.
And when you decide to make that change, I feel like that's when the breakthrough comes through because you have to be ready.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
That's one thing I have always admired about you is that you are very, well, I am independent, but you are very strong and independent. You're like, motherfucker, say what? I will beat your ass. Like
but again,
you're like, what? What do you want me to do? Okay.
And there's nothing wrong with either. There's nothing wrong with either of our personalities, right? Like now that's where friendships or relationships come into play because as we're like, if me and you are still friends where we saw each other every day, I would rub off on you and you would rub off on me. Correct? Like I would make you a little bit more hard and you would make me a little bit more soft.
Yes.
So that's where your life, friendships and partnerships and relationships come into play because that kind of helps build your character by the people you surround yourself with.
Yeah. And that is extremely true because that's like me and my husband now. Because we were like, okay, just imagine you as a guy and me as me, right? I'm dating you. Okay. So, and he's very particular and he has a system that helps him be organized and stay calm. Like he has to have a routine.
Yeah.
And you have a routine.
Yeah.
It makes y'all feel good. It makes y'all feel better. I am getting better. Like I am not the best. I'm kind of one of those, like a ping pong. I'm like, boom, bing, bing, bing. Like I'm all over the damn place. And, and even when you and I were children in high school and we worked at Walmart, I looked up to you because I'm over here like, look what I just bought. And you're like, I got $800 in my savings. And I'm like, fuck, I got a fucking dollar. Like, I'm like, damn, I'm gonna have to. And me and you had like a little game, like to say how much savings. You were always winning, but like we would tell each other what our savings was, and I'm like, damn, I need to quit spending money on shit. I don't.
But that's my problem now to this day is that I have I tell everyone I'm broke. If I because if I have $200 on a credit card, I don't have $200 to spend. I'm like, I'm broke because I owe that money to this credit card, even though I'm not broke. And like, so me and my friend are planning birthday trip to New York. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to stop stressing about money and I'm going to go on this trip because and my aunt's kind of working on me with this as well. Like I kind of have issues with just letting myself have fun because I am too adult sometimes because I'm just because it's all in our upbringing, right? Like I grew up very, very poor and I don't want to be that way again. I don't want to wonder when I'm going to get another paycheck or a dollar or whatever. So, and that's a lot of mental stuff.
Stay with another family, like your mom did a little bit with.
Yeah, with y'all. Like I remember, my mom telling me a story where your dad had to buy us diapers, because my dad was a POS and would work when he wanted to and didn't when he didn't. And your dad helped my mom a lot, like with bills and diapers and things like that. And I don't want to have to do that.
Yeah, because you don't want to feel like you are indebted to someone.
Exactly.
Because some people, like I love my dad, but he would remind you, remember when I did this, this, and this, and this. And like I love my dad, but he did make people feel guilty. And I don't think he did that to your mom.
No, he never did that to my mom.
But he definitely did it to people sometimes, especially the men. So that's where I definitely see that why you wouldn't want to do that too. And I'm in a way like that too, because I mean, you can ask my husband. I've never had to ask him to pay my part of a bill. I never had to ask him to help me pay my own bill. I have always been independent, and to a fault, like you said, because I always dated not necessarily losers, but people who, because there are a few guys I dated that are good guys, but we just were not compatible with.
They just didn't have any ambition.
Right. Yeah. Yes. There was so many that just thought about partying, or they didn't have a vehicle. A good chunk of them didn't have a vehicle, and I'm driving them everywhere. They wouldn't keep a job. I'm like, what the hell is wrong?
But that also came from your insecurities of feeling like you needed to be needed and they needed you to do those things. But now that we've had our therapy session,
yes,
let's get back on. No, it's fine. I love when my podcast going. That's why it's called Babel's Nonsense, because we just know where the podcast takes us. Right. But to kind of get back on track where like the Raven Lee came in. So you were doing the modeling, and then when did you stop modeling? Was this in between like going to school? Like, so then you stopped modeling, you went to school, and then you got out of school and you were like, you know what? I think I'm going to open my own business.
Actually, I started modeling after I graduated college.
Okay. So went to college, did the modeling. Okay.
Yes. Like I seriously probably had my first photo shoot 2 months after we graduated, or I graduated college. I think we graduated the same year, but I'm not sure. But, so, I couldn't think of a name necessarily for my boutique, and I'm like, I'll just use my model name, and that's why I said Ravens Memorial Jewelry, and in a way, because there are different perspectives when it comes to the actual bird, the raven. People can see it as something beautiful, they can see it as something dark and wicked, but there are different stories depending on which branch of history you look at. They say that ravens are the carriers to the other life, regardless what it is, like heaven or hell or anything. But also they're in a good sense, they're the carriers to the afterlife. And then sometimes they're depicted as evil, like bad mischief. It just depends on what you're looking at. But I thought of it as the sense of the carrier, the protector, the guider to the afterlife kind of thing. That's how I depicted it with my business. Okay. And the model name too. So
when did you, what made you think of doing this memorial jewelry? And we'll kind of explain what the jewelry that you're doing is in just a second. But like, is this right after your dad passed that you thought? Okay. So it was right after your stepdad passed. And is that did you want to make something for him in remembrance of him?
Yes. So 11 years ago, my real dad passed away 12 years ago. Holy crap, 12 years ago, my real dad passed away. Well, one of my friends knew of an elderly lady in not Huntsville, but it was Alabama or Georgia. Like we drove a good 2.5 hours. So there was an elderly lady that made memorial jewelry.
Okay.
But she did hers a lot differently. Like when I received my jewelry, like I drove back down and picked it up, it was not as pretty as I thought it would be. There were like black and really weird brown. And I was like, okay. But I was still happy and grateful because it was my dad's funeral flowers and there's keepsakes for me and my mom, my aunt.
That's why I'm going to stop you for just a second.
Yeah.
For those who don't know what memorial jewelry is, will you kind of explain that so they'll know what you're saying in your description?
Yes. So this memorial jewelry, it was my father's funeral flowers. And this elderly lady actually cooked these flowers. And
Okay.
I think that she cooked them with wax. So they kept their form. But of course, they're not water resistant, and things like that. But she made pendants, little tie pins and things. But they just didn't look very pretty. Like I figured they'd look prettier for the price I paid,
Yeah.
and I was like, meh. And they wasn't waterproof. So, I mean, I would still take my jewelry off anyway, but just the fact, what if I accidentally had something sprayed on it or
Yeah. Or you walked out in the rain or,
right, exactly. So I'm like, ooh, okay, I'm never going to wear this. I'm going to put it up.
Yeah.
Well, my stepdad passed away. And I totally forgot about what I had done to my dad's jewelry. Well, people were like, man, there's just so many flowers. What can we do with his flowers? And da, 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 da. And I'm like, ting, like a light bulb just went off. And I was like, oh, I need to figure out how that woman did that. And I can make this for my family. Well, I just started researching all these different things. And my first couple of years was clay. I did clay jewelry pieces that had dried flowers in the pieces. But what's weird is mine were waterproof, but they weren't. And I had trial and error to get it to where I liked it and things, and it just branched to what it is today. There's so much more professional, better. And like,
I was about to say, you need to do a post where you do like your first year pieces to what they look like now, because you have grown so much. I think I got one of your earlier pieces when my uncle passed away. And and
I like really want to redo that because like,
it's still pretty though.
Yeah.
It's still beautiful.
Cause it's so funny when I look at my old pieces, I'm like, nah. But you see your own growth and you're like, man, I could have done better. But you didn't know because you're just starting, you're learning, trial and error. Like, and it's so funny because I had 3 jobs. I was a receptionist, I was selling pure romance, and then I started doing this jewelry, but I was doing it for just the family. But then when I started posting it, other people were like, oh, I need that. I want that and all this. And then I saw, well, oh my gosh, I can't keep up with having pure romance and my business and the receptionist. So I dropped pure romance to focus on my jewelry and me being a receptionist. Well, over time, and I stress so hard, do not give up on your business until after 4 years.
Yeah.
Because the first 3 years for me, it wasn't 4, they say 3 to 5 years is when your business takes off. Well, mine took off near the 4th year, or actually it was the 3rd year. It was like almost right on the money on the anniversary when I started actually doing well. The very first year online on Etsy, I had 3 orders.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, it's so you gotta start from nowhere. Yeah. But I mean, I was like, well, heck, an extra $100 a year, po folk, we like, that's great, So I'm like, yeah, I'll just keep this Etsy up and whatever. And then it took off from there. And on my 4th, going into 5th year is when I actually could walk away from a day job and do it myself.
That's awesome.
And I've done it myself since. I did try to get another job just to have extra money, but
Yeah.
insurance is not for me. Woof. But
That's funny. But that is awesome. Like, I'm super proud. I love seeing your post. I love seeing that your business has grown so much because do you know, like, are you international? Do you know, like, do your orders come in, or is it just in the United States, or how does?
just in the United States, because I could branch out and be international, but I do not accept that on Etsy.
Gotcha.
Because depending on where they're from, I can't put an actual thing on international shipping. It's so expensive.
Yeah.
I hate for someone to spend $50 in a regular priority shipping.
Gotcha.
And they have like 20, or not 20, but let's say $60 worth of items. That's just so expensive for them. But I have thought about doing that, but it's one of those, I don't want to bite off more than I can chew.
No, I get it. Yeah.
I already do.
So do you know the farthest place that you've actually like shipped to?
Hawaii.
Seriously?
Yes.
That is awesome.
Hawaii. I haven't had Alaska yet, and I'm really wanting Alaska.
So if anyone's listening from Alaska, buy some jewelry.
Yeah, because I seriously think I have had every state but Alaska. Yeah.
So how does it work? So since you do memorial jewelry where people send you flowers from the funeral, do they look at your pieces, say, okay, I like this, and then ship you the flowers, and then you ship the items back? Is that how it works?
Yes. So they have to mail me completely dried flowers.
Okay.
Which I do online have how to dry the flowers, but I'll say it quickly on here. You can use this thing called silica, which, if you remember, these little bags that come in your clothes sometimes.
Yeah.
That's silica. It helps draw out any moisture so your clothing doesn't mold if there was moisture trapped in the bag.
Gotcha.
So silica comes in a sand form on Amazon. You can, if you want your flowers whole, you can sit them in a coffee cup or some type of cup that holds the rose tight, pour the silica on top and underneath, and it'll help dry it out and keep its color a lot better.
Okay.
Or someone could take all the petals and leaves off the stems and lay them out across paper towels to air dry for about 2 or so weeks. That's the cheaper way to do it. The color does fade a little bit versus the silica. And then they mail me their fully dried flowers. They order all the things that they would like created. And once I receive their package of flowers, then I start making, and then I mail it back with everything and leftover flowers.
This is just a side note for me because there's a lot of pampas grass in my backyard. If I want the pampas grass dried, do I do the same thing and I can use it as decoration in my house? Or is that where people say they spray it with hairspray?
I'm not sure. I would have to look up for that grass. Like if you're wanting it long.
Yeah.
Like I'm trying to think.
Because that shit is expensive in the store.
Yes. Hobby Lobby is so expensive. But I'm trying to think. I bet you could use silica. I would definitely use it on one and have it laid out to where your puppy doesn't want to lick or eat it, because I'm sure it's toxic if it's consumed. But I would definitely lay it out maybe in the garage, put some paper towels under it or something, and lay it flat and pour some silica on top to help it dry out and see if it holds together. See if it does.
So, sorry, side note again, guys, but I just wanted to know that for my own good. Maybe y'all want to know that too, because pampas grass is like really in right now. But so like, what all do you make?
Okay. And the business can be anything. It doesn't have to be funeral flowers. It could be wedding flowers.
Okay.
I've done anniversary flowers. I've done a child's first haircut.
Oh, cute.
Yes, I've done pet hair. I've done cremations. And also, I know this is a little morbid, but I'm just throwing this out there because there's this one woman who wanted some memorial jewelry made, but she could not find any of her daughter's funeral flowers, even the silk flowers. And she was just so upset. but she found her daughter. Her daughter got killed in a drunk driving accident.
Mm-hmm.
And she found her daughter's baby teeth. Well,
Okay.
yeah, I knew you was like, oh god.
No, it's just like, okay, well, to each their own.
Yeah, but I crushed up a couple of her baby teeth, and this is when I was doing the clay, and I had put it into clay dog tag pieces because her daughter was actually in the service.
Okay.
So, I can almost do anything. I've done clothing, like this one woman whose husband, she couldn't find what happened to her flowers, but her husband always wore flannel shirts.
Mm-hmm.
So we cut a piece of his flannel shirt and made it into different pieces for people.
That's so cool.
Yeah, so it's definitely almost anything. It doesn't have to be totally morbid like me, but
So like what kind of jewelry? Is it just jewelry, or is there other or is it like just earrings, necklace? Like what kind of things can you make?
Yes, so it's not only jewelry. I do have home decor. Like I have paperweights, like square paperweights, coasters, round paperweights, flat round paperweights, letter decor, like let's say for a wedding.
Mm-hmm.
Your last name is G, I have a big G that's about 7 to 8 inches tall.
Oh, cute.
And I can do your wedding flowers that are preserved into the letter.
Okay.
And I have bookmarks. I have knives for men, dog tags, cufflinks, necklaces, earrings, bracelets, rings, just all sorts of stuff.
You're just kind of doing all of it.
Yeah. Like
I love it.
I try to have a good variety because not everybody wears jewelry.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I love jewelry, but even myself on a day-to-day, I wear my wedding rings and my earrings,
Mm-hmm.
But when I'm doing things, I'll put my other stuff on. So there's not a lot of people who would want just jewelry. So I try to have a big option of other things.
Well, I love it.
Thank you so much.
And I appreciate you doing this podcast with me because you're hard to track down. You're just doing the damn thing out there in the world. So I want you to pimp yourself out and tell everyone where they can find you, find your business, how they can order from you. Just lay it all out there for everyone.
Awesome. So, of course, I'm on Etsy. That's my website. That's the easiest place to go to. And it's www.ravens, RAVENS, art, ART, boutique, BOUTIQUE .etsy.com. And that will pop up my website. You can see everything and prices. And of course, if you do have a large family order, definitely talk to me, message me. We can work something out. Because, with items that I do buy 3, get 1 free on the same price item. But if you have a mix and match of let's say 7 items and more, talk to me and I'll wiggle something with you to help you out. And my phone number is 931-800-9419.
And then you have a Facebook page where people can look at your stuff?
Yes, and it's Ravens with apostrophe S, Art Boutique Memorial Jewelry.
No, I appreciate that so much. I can't wait for everyone to see.
I appreciate it.
But you also just want to put that out there. You did make a statement on your Facebook page recently for Christmas orders. That ends when?
Oh my goodness, it's changing. It was November 1st, but I'm really thinking about changing it to October 10th. But I'm just throwing a number out there.
So everyone stay tuned to your Facebook page. That's where you typically announce like Christmas orders, like deadline and things like that, or new products or anything like that. So stay tuned to her Facebook page. And until next time, guys, bye.
Bye.